the biggest lesson is probably just to focus on your mission and your vision, because when something big happens, you do end up going into the weeds a bit, or you could potentially just focus on the small stuff. So keep your direction and focus on your vision and your mission. That's really steered us through.
Thank you, Donna, for coming in. Do you want to talk a bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Donna Speed, and I'm the Chief Executive for We the Curious. And for those who don't know us, we are a science centre and an educational charity. And our home is on the harbour side of Bristol, and we've kind of got a building full of interactive exhibits and a cool planetarium as well. It looks like a disco ball on the side of the building. But yeah, it's a 3D planetarium.
I remember walking past that when I was a kid. I was like, wow, there's a spaceship in the middle of Millennium Square.
Yeah, it does look like that with the stairs going up there as well.
Yeah, it looks mega.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really good. It's an incredible experience.
I guess We the Curious has recently faced some challenges. And I think the way We the Curious has dealt with that has been incredible. So I'd like to chat on that a bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess really it's obviously had quite an impact on you as an organisation. What impact has it had on your mission and being able to deliver that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because when we first... So I'll go back to just before the fire. We were in COVID times really. And so we'd felt like we'd really moved mountains during COVID because we'd kind of put in a brand new exhibition, and it was the first, it was April, and our financial year starts in April, and it was the first week of the Easter holidays. So it was on the Saturday of the Easter holidays, and ironically, it was our year of recovery.
Oh, of course, after COVID.
Yeah, and so we were really, it was the first day that we had our capacity at 100% because we were kind of capping it for because of COVID reasons, and all of our staff had their full hours again. It was a real kind of joyous, right, we're back, and we got a fire on our roof. And so this was because we had a fault with a solar panel, and we were quite early adopters to solar panels, so they were old. Now if you get solar panels, they shut down immediately with any faults. But we did not have that. And so a fault happened, and we got a fire on the roof, and it was quite intense quite quickly. And so we thought we'd be closed for a couple of weeks, a month maybe, because we, initially it looked like, well, so what happened was there was a protest in Bristol, because of course there was, and the police were in attendance, and they had a drone there as well. And the drone picked up the fire starting.
Oh, is that how it was?
That's how they found out. So the reason we had emergency services on immediately was because they picked up the fire and the police picked up the fire, phoned the fire brigade, and literally we had people on site immediately. So everyone was evacuated straight away. Really, the police put a huge cordon in place. It was just incredible. But the fact they got to it so quickly meant that the fire was contained to the roof. And so it didn't completely go through the building. All the exhibits were mainly unharmed, but the amount of water that went through was huge. And it went in every cable you can imagine.
Oh, gosh.
And so everything did. But we initially thought that we could just dry it out and reopen. But here we are nearly 2 years later, and we're not open yet.
I didn't actually realise it's been 2 years since. God, It doesn't feel that long.
It's kind of flown by, but also been a decade in how it feels. So yeah, it has been 2 years. And so the mission, how we deliver our mission, is with incredible experiences to engage people and to connect them with science, and for people to see that science is for everyone, and it's part of everyday culture. So we've not had our venue to do that. So the team were incredible, utterly incredible. And they were just like, right, what will it take for us to progress our mission without a venue? And so we learned what it was like really to be an educational charity without a venue. And that's been really incredible. And the teams were out and about delivering the activities and the programs to anywhere that will have us really. So we've been to festivals, libraries, places of worship, our own spaces, Millennium Square and Anchor Square, school takeovers. So actually the team got on it really quickly, just adapted what we do in the building to outside of the building.
I love that. I
great.
guess it probably made you feel like you were more embedded in the community as well by going out into the community.
Yeah, and also it kind of helped us realise how we are a part of the community. So everybody's response to us has been overwhelmingly positive. So people were so supportive, like right at the beginning. What can we do? How can we help? You know, even just like, we're thinking of you. You know, you've got this. Like all those messages from across the city, from visitors, from members, schools, city council, other venues. You know, everyone has been incredible. So yeah, you're right in terms of feeling like you're part of the community and kind of leaning on that relationship has been really, really important.
By working in the community, I guess you're kind of fostering relationships a little bit more than you were before, maybe, and I guess building on partnerships.
Yeah, exactly. There are a few examples of how previous relationships that have just been really strengthened. So like I say, the school takeovers, that's been really incredible, but also to hear about the wonderful work that's going on in schools and how we might be best placed to support them in the future. So it's been a real learning experience for us. So on the day of the fire, we actually had a wedding in our venue hire space. So they were due to get married in the planetarium and a lovely reception in the Ros and Franklin suite. And because it was just off the back of COVID, their wedding had been moved twice already.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I know, bless her. And so the bride was looking across, she was staying in the hotel across the bridge, the Bristol Hotel, and could see the plumes of smoke. And her dream day was just ruined. But the fire brigade rescued her cake. We scrabbled around quickly, collecting what we could from shoes to photographs and memorabilia that you'd wanted to save because the amount of water that was coming through. So everything was saved, but the venues stood up straight away and said, "We've got you." The SS Great Britain will take the wedding. Bristol Hotel, come back here. We'll feed you. You know, kind of. So they ended up going to the Bristol Hotel, having a bit of a party there, and then an after party at Bristol Old Vic. So Bristol responds brilliantly, and just, you know, so people, those relationships before where perhaps you just meet at conferences or kind of share programs. This was just being there when we needed them. So those relationships have definitely been deepened.
That's brilliant. I guess like from this huge problem that's happened, you've been able to like overcome it quite well, I guess. Like, what do you reckon is the biggest learning you've had?
So I think the biggest lesson is probably just to focus on your mission and your vision. Because when something big happens, you do end up going into the weeds a bit, or you could potentially just focus on the small stuff. So keep your direction and focus on your vision and your mission. That's really steered us through. Had we just focused on the reinstatement of the building or, you know, the negotiations with the insurers, then we may have lost our way. We probably wouldn't have put the program out that is happening now. We wouldn't have carried on fostering those relationships with our community, with our visitors. We wouldn't be so communicative with our visitors as well. We won't kind of, you know, updating them on what we're up to rather than when we're back. So I think that's been the thing is just to really focus on what you're there for, not the surrounding bits that just are the details, really.
Yeah, because I guess you can get easily distracted, can't you, by like stuff you were saying, like insurance and all that stuff. But if you're just staying true to what you're aiming to do, it makes it a lot easier to focus and narrow down.
And we've had this whole focus around be there for your audiences, for our audiences. But actually, I think we've learnt with our audiences who we are and how we fit in with the community. So that's been a big lesson.
I'm going to have to ask you now, how do you fit into the community?
So it's, you know, our mission and our vision is to connect people with science and to make sure that we, we build a better world together. It sounds a bit kind of cheesy, but it's what we need in society. And so being welcomed into those other spaces outside of what is our comfortable venue has reassured us that we are part of the community. We're not just trying to engage with the community, we are part of it. And so we serve the region as well. And so, and we feel our place in it now. Yeah, more than we've before, because it's been tested.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess, did that change your mission and vision with the new branding that you did?
It did, yeah. So when back in 2017, or 2015 to 17, we really looked at that, like who we were, what we were for. And if you think about when we opened initially, it was in 2000, and phones were for phoning people. So and not, you couldn't get incredible content, and science also wasn't seen as it is now. There wasn't cool science content that you could access. So it was all around making science accessible. Like, how do you get it out of the way that it was being taught in lessons at school, or for people who are really keen at maybe at university? What is outside of that? What is a slightly more informal way of learning? And so it was all around access, and it still is, because actually still people don't have access to science. But that isn't our biggest problem, really. It's now connecting people and also melting the snow between science and art. And I think that's, Richard Gregory was somebody who set up science centres, and we're still following his mission of kind of making it multidisciplinary and getting new creative thinking and brains and disciplines and skills and experience into science, so that we're able to come up with the better solutions.
Yeah, brilliant. I still remember when you rebranded. It was incredible because everyone used to know it as at Bristol.
Yeah.
But when I look at Bristol, it's like, what is at Bristol?
And we were used to it as well. And so we did this huge piece of research around, what do you want your future science centre to be? And people said, we want it to be interactive, we want to keep being interactive. We want it to be not just for children. And we want you to take a stance where you can, because I think previously we were maybe not doing that. And we want you to change your name. And we were like, oh. So we asked about the brand and said, do you think it needs refreshing? And if so, which ways? But it came back really clear, like, no, the at symbol is not what you think it means anymore. It's quite dated, and it doesn't make sense outside of Bristol. And so you should change that. So that's why we went through quite a rigorous process to make sure that it was the right name. And we tested loads of names. And some we thought, it's definitely the one. It's definitely the one. And we test it, and people are like, no, sounds like a cult. No, sounds like an art studio. And so We the Curious was really interesting, because we had about 400 names that we were testing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was massive. And we whittled it right down, and we kept testing the ones that were, on paper would do what they needed to do, but it wasn't really resonating with people. And then we went out to dinner to try and kind of rethink it. We were talking about when Obama was campaigning, and he would always say we and not I. And so we got, what if it was We the Curious? And so we tested that, and people absolutely got it. They said, oh, you mean like a group of curious people? Like, yes, exactly that. So the trick was to make sure that it's not we the curious inside this building are sharing stuff with you, but it is about society. It's about us, all of us. So yeah, it wasn't wholly loved, but it was understood, and it kind of, so yeah, it was a bit Marmite, but we got there, and we're really proud of it. I really love the name. I love the rebrand, because it's come directly from the people we serve. Like, what should we be? This is what you should be. And then we've done it. Yeah,
you've definitely done it the right way, asking people what they think, and getting the feedback. I still cannot believe you had 400 names on there.
I know. And that was, that was because we went out and we're like, what should we be called as well? So we're definitely kind of visitor led, we're audience led in all that we do. And that's gone pretty well.
Now I'm curious now of what the other names could have been. Were there any at the top that almost got selected?
Yes. And I was really wedded to some of them. I can't remember what they were. There was things like Curious Yellow, because apparently yellow is the colour of curiosity, but that's a bit of a dodgy film from the 60s. And then we were like, well, maybe we'll be like Curious Blue. And that was the second film from the 60s. So there was some kind of reasons why, like, no, you just can't go near this. But we were trying to avoid names that felt quite classically science centres.
Yeah.
And so that's why we tried to do something a bit different. And and it is about people. So yeah, those previous names have dropped out of my head now, all 400 of them.
Yeah, I can imagine. I like what you just said then about it's about the people. It's not about the centre, the science centre.
Yeah.
It's about the people and getting them curious. And I kind of in fact, I love how the logo's upside down.
Yeah.
Because the first thing people say is, why is the logo upside down?
Absolutely.
And it's already getting you curious.
Exactly. And it makes you, and it's kind of trying to encourage people to think about things in a different way. And in a crossword puzzle, the answers aren't like upside down at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's a little play on that as well. So
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But it's exactly that. It makes people curious. Like, I wonder why. Like, okay, good, you're in.
I guess the branding has kind of helped to sort of communicate what you are all about now. We kind of spoke about how it speaks to your values and stuff. Has it helped in any other ways, do you think?
I think, it has. I think it's the rebranding is so much more than the visual treatment or the name. It really is about the vision and the mission, our pledges. So we brought out a manifesto for change as well. So we really set out, here's what we want to do. And all the things that we do are kind of connected to that. So the rebranding set our direction. And that was informed by, our audiences and our visitors. So, and our non-visitors as well, crucially, because that's where I think previously we'd just been asking ourselves, talking amongst the science centre sector and our members and our visitors. But this was very, kind of going out of people who would never visit us, who had no intention, didn't know who we were. So that was an important part of it as well. So making sure that we are as inclusive as possible and that we appeal to as many people as possible.
Absolutely. I really love how access is key for you guys.
Yeah.
And I know that you do programs such as, I don't know what you actually call it, but like the postcode sort of thing. If they live in a certain postcode, they can come on that day for like a reduced rate or something, is it?
Yeah. So there are hello weekends. And similarly with the school takeovers that we've done recently as well, there are huge barriers for people to visit us. One of them being cost. So we can be really clear on, okay, well, there's no cost barrier here. And there's, there are some weekends where we'll focus so that we've got the right spaces adapted and you're all quieter for visitors who need a kind of quieter space. And actually during our closure, we have made huge steps forward on that. So we've now got a multi-faith room, we've got a quiet room, so that we're, rather than just focusing like, now this weekend we're going to do this, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
But the same with a kind of community membership, we're trying to do it not so it's just focused on weekends, but all the time. We are free for asylum seekers and refugees. That's something, again, price is only one barrier, but we're just trying to keep working so that we are welcoming, people feel like they belong, and it's for them.
That's great, yeah, because the only way we're going to get the next people interested in science is obviously by getting them involved.
Exactly. We have a deficit of brilliant ideas and people's backgrounds and perspectives. So it's our job to make ourselves appeal and be welcoming and making sure that people feel they belong when they arrive. Otherwise, yes, science is the thing that misses out on brilliant people and brilliant ideas.
Do you have any sort of stories of people who've come into the centre and who've like changed the way they thought or anything like that, maybe?
So me, when I was at school, I thought science was not for me at all. I started working at Alton Towers when I was 16, fell in love with it, and came to at Bristol just to get an educational charity in my back pocket. And then I was going to Disney. That was my plan. I got double E for science GCSE. It was just, I never knew the answers. I didn't want to put my hand up because you needed to know the answers if you put your hand up. So it just passed me by. I thought science was hard and I didn't get it. So it wasn't for me. And so when I started working at Bristol in 2000, it was very much on a front of house, visitor services, kind of retail. You know, I love serving people. I love the visitor interaction. I love visitors. But then going around the venues was fascinating, and I was curious and had loads of questions, and it was okay. It was okay not to know. You didn't have to put your hand up because you knew. And so it changed my life because I've now dedicated my career to enabling other people to have that moment. It meant something, and then I couldn't go to Disney because that meant less, you know. And so, so I know that has happened countless times. We don't really track it, like that's a thing, and so we only get it from, yeah. And actually, over the fire, people have come back and said, "Oh, I used to go as a child, and that's the reason I'm doing the job I'm doing now." And it's like, "Oh, I knew it." But yeah, we haven't quite done that research program yet to understand what the impact that we've had on people's lives. But it definitely happens. It happened to me.
Will you be doing that research soon, do you think?
I'd love to. I'd really love to. I mean, I think science centres across the UK, we are positioned so that everywhere has a fairly local science centre. And I think that it is different, that kind of, you know, school trip, that fun, there's no test, there's no, you can't get it wrong. So I think that has connected people with science in a way that, you know, you don't necessarily get in other venues. And I think also during COVID, you know, we were all armchair scientists, weren't we? Watching the kind of next slide, please, and kind of and seeing all the data. It was a weird time, but it was for those who are connected and feel more comfortable with science. They were asking questions and they were more comfortable in that space. Whereas, and I think that's down to science centres. We need more science centres. We need people to be able to go, no, this is affecting my life, and so I'm going to demand more, or I'm going to ask difficult questions, or get involved in some solutions. And I think that's really important.
I love that you're making it like asking questions is the norm, and that's how you advance.
Yeah.
I liked what you said earlier about when you were in school, you thought you couldn't do it because you have to know the answer.
Yeah.
It's like, whereas with like creativity and the arts and stuff, it's all about exploring and stuff, and you don't need the answer. And I love how you're bringing that into science now. And
it's always been there. It's always been there. Science is so progressive, and it's just the scientific process is testing it out, trying it out, getting it wrong, trying again. You know, and so it is a creative process, and it is beautiful, and it's really interesting and fascinating. But I think how I viewed it when I was at school was, you know, really clever people in labs who knew a lot more than me and could remember stuff. And that, you know, and who were interested in things that I wasn't interested in. And it's just not true. It's about seeing the world, you know, and it really helps connect things and gives you a way of viewing the world that you're more engaged. And it's fascinating. I just didn't know that. I didn't know. My 16-year-old self had no clue. And I'd never been to a science centre. So I think that they're doing a good job. They just need to keep, you know, we need to keep asking our visitors what we're needed for. And so and we actually did that with a really brilliant marketing campaign. Your kind of questions around how was brand and marketing helping. We did for Project What If, which was a multi-million-pound exhibition to completely reimagine our ground floor. That is based on the curiosity of Bristol. And so similar to kind of postcodes, we went to every postcode in Bristol and collected questions.
I remember the whole wall of questions.
and so many about poo.
Of course.
Of course.
Naturally.
But fascinating questions. And I think we went out to collect 10,000 questions. We got 20,000. Really fascinating questions. And so then we worked with visitors and members and schools and to choose the questions that we would put on the exhibition floor. And so that was all done. And it just as COVID was hitting that we were about to put it in. And so we did it anyway. And we just managed to do it. It was incredible. But that exhibition that hasn't really had its moment in the sun, but because it's kind of new and 3 years old.
Yeah, it's a weird mix.
It's a weird mix, but actually it's brilliant. And the questions and the content, it's co-created with our visitors.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, can science see my soul, or can science see your soul? Which brings in belief systems. It is, which I don't think we would have done as a science centre, but it's a beautiful question. It's really explored incredibly. And the visitor who asked that was 5 when he asked that question.
Brilliant.
Unbelievable. So yeah, we've got our visitors as part of our team, essentially, kind of like pulling it all together and setting our direction, also helping us with our content and our exhibitions.
Yeah, I love that. It's like a really good collab, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing a lot of poo questions. But,
Yeah.
And again, there was a lot of soul questions as well. Like, does a tree have a soul? And
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
Which is really interesting. What other interesting responses did you get?
The questions were incredible. The way that the questions have been asked is really wonderful. So there's a question around who was the first person to see sand. Like that you can unpack that in so many different ways. So you can look at sand itself. You can think about how long it takes sandstone to become sand. You can think about Cheddar Man. Like, it's all different ways of like who was in terms of the first person. There's lots of different ways you can look at that. So really beautiful, interesting questions. And yeah, it was fascinating on the curiosity and also the leveling opportunity of questions. You can ask, a 5-year-old can ask a question that a PhD student is asking.
Gosh,
and
yeah.
so it's really interesting. And we keep, when we're open, we keep asking questions so people can ask questions, and then also people can answer them or ask another question. And so we've got these moments to collect interesting questions. And we also invite researchers in so that when they ask questions, our visitors can help shape that as well.
Brilliant, yeah. I'm just thinking back to that soul question from the 5-year-old. I reckon, is there quite a lot of questions about like sort of philosophy and stuff now?
Yeah. I think that's the shift as well. It's kind of pushing the boundaries of what content we would have shown before, and making it much more around what people are curious about, which is everything. And and I think the key thing is as well is that we keep asking and that we don't just stick with those questions, because the world changed so massively during COVID. Those questions could be completely different now. Interestingly, we did have one on illness. So we did actually do a whole constellation of exhibits and kind of unpacking that question around illness, including a game where you do try and manage a pandemic.
Oh, wow. Was that before the pandemic happened?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sinister.
Yeah, I know. And also one about rainbows. And you think about kind of what rainbows means in society and how and different cultures, and then obviously what that meant during COVID as well with the NHS as well. So even though it was done before COVID, it's really current. It's really current. We have this question around, is there another me in the universe? And the Somali girls group did an incredible video response and weaved in actually the Colston Tower, the Colston statue's just been toppled. Here's what that means to us as a group that's often homogenized in kind of a view, and what the reality of that group, and indeed that they are an individual and unique in the universe. So it was a really interesting and very relevant take on that question. It's really powerful.
God, yeah. So the original question was about, are there multiple people?
Yeah.
I'm confused of how the toppling of the Colson statue's coming in.
So it's a really incredible film, and that weaves it in beautifully, because quite often from the video it shows that actually, someone can be put into a category and to be seen as a part of a group, and that can be really problematic, and that can be really hurtful. And the Colston Tower, Colston statue being toppled was really representative of racism and microaggression in the city, and just how actually this is just impacting this group's lives every day. And so it was a moment to be able to communicate that in a really wonderful film. And the underlying thing is, is there another me in the universe? And the answer from that, spoiler, from that video is, yes, I'm unique in the universe. And so that was a way to kind of view the question, and made it really relevant for what was going on for the people who were making the film in that time. Really powerful. I'm so proud of that film, and how it really does give a very personal answer to quite a big question.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting, isn't it, how we can use our personal experiences to answer some of these sort of questions, I guess.
Yeah, and actually really brave and really bold. And that video makes me think, they are going to rule the world. They are so brilliant. And it's great to be able to have a platform in the Science Centre that can help spread their message.
Yeah, I love it. It's all just come from a simple question, hasn't it?
Yeah,
well?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I feel like I've seen the What If
exhibition.
Yeah. Thank you. I was missing that word, exhibition. Is Really Curious reopening with that exhibit, or is it going to be a new exhibit?
So that was, this was our multi-million pound exhibition that was in the making for years. And that's where all the questions were collected, and we worked with our communities to build those constellations. We call them constellations. There's one question, and then there's like
loads coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So this is the exhibition we're so proud of, and yeah, we won't be changing it for a while.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got really interesting. Like, it's got an open city lab as well. So there's a lab right in the middle of the space as well, where, as I said earlier, kind of we've invited researchers in to do their work, and visitors can get involved, and a theatre right in the heart of it as well, where people can kind of debate things, and our teams can present what's going on that day as well.
I can totally see why you're drawn to it now, because it's all about experiences, the visitors. And I remember you saying earlier about wanting to work at Disney because you like the visitor interaction and stuff. And I guess you still get that at Really Curious.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's such a privilege to be part of someone's best day, or one of their best days. And so we've not had it for a while, but the kids lining up outside the building at the beginning of the day, just gorgeous. Like, literally, especially the younger ones in their kind of high vises and holding hands, and that kind of, you can just tell how excited they are. And so, it's really brilliant to work there. It's hard to leave. I've been there for 24 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
I'm just trying to think of when you opened in 2000. So you've been there since the start.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it'd been open a few months. The Wild Walks, we had Wild Walk and IMAX as well. So that'd been open a few months, and then I joined just as Explore, which is now called We the Curious, was opening. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
I'm curious of your journey then, because you started off as, I think you were saying earlier, as like the visitor interaction sort of.
Yeah, visitor services manager.
And now you are the CEO.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
Like, how did that come about?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't really expect that to happen.
That's sometimes the best way of doing it, though, isn't it?
Well, I think, except you end up getting a bit of imposter syndrome, because if you haven't got that, like, that's what I'm going to do. But again, because I'm just quite curious and I love learning, new challenges, at somewhere the size of an organisation like We the Curious, there's always things that you can be getting on with and things you can be learning and helping with. So moving from visitor services to more of a operations, and then estate services and health and safety, and that type of thing, like, and the general creep, and then marketing. I love marketing. The kind of communications with our visitors and kind of the data that we get from our visitors to inform what we're doing. And then onto the content and just, the incredible shows that are taking place, the exhibits themselves, the planetarium, the venue hire, the maintenance. Like, I'm just fascinated by all of it. So, and I think that we've got an organisation full of people who are fascinated by it all. So we're really lucky. We've always had incredible people. And I was just somebody who just keen to help. So my brief kind of grew over different times. And then I did a Masters of Business in 2015 at UWE. And that's when I realised, that's when I got a bit of confidence that actually maybe I could do it.
Cool.
And that was quite a leap because I didn't really have any formal qualifications before doing a master's. So that was a bit of a leap of faith. But yeah, it was really enjoyable. I loved that.
I kind of liked what you said earlier about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
This is something I felt quite a lot. I'm curious as to how you sort of overcome that. I guess bettering yourself, as you just said then, with the masters is one way.
Yeah, and just being open to learning. Like, lifelong learning is the job I do anyway, so it goes hand in hand. But not comparing myself to other people, that's really critical, because I think if you look on social media, like in life, if you believe everybody's best day, you're like, oh God, I just don't compare. And so surrounding myself with good people and learning where I can from other leaders as well is really key.
Brilliant. I actually really love what you just said then about not comparing yourself to others. I think someone said to me recently that you should don't compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to yourself.
Your previous self. Yeah, I've heard that. It's good, isn't it?
Like, I'm really into it at the moment, like bettering yourself 1% every day sort of thing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
By the end, you're like massively developed as a person.
And I think if you have imposter syndrome, perhaps you haven't got the expectation in yourself. It's to try to dig deep, to be like, to give yourself that positive self-talk. Like, just try it out. Just do it. Just go for it. Because if you fail, that's okay. Just learn from it. If you think that you're going to ace everything, you probably have a bit further to fall.
Yes.
So I think it's probably the better end of it. But yeah, it is. It can be really unhelpful on those days where you look at the lineup, or like if you're at a presentation or something, you look at the lineup and be like, what am I doing here? I'm going to get found out. But then just doing it and going, okay, that was okay. And you take learnings from it, and you take the wins as well.
I love what you said about lifelong learning, because I feel like I finished school, I stopped learning for a long time, just started doing my work, and never really looked at developing myself. And it was only recently when I started thinking, I could be learning still. It doesn't finish at school. It is lifelong learning.
Absolutely. But I bet you were learning loads.
Yeah.
Weren't you? Like, actually, you just didn't categorize it as that. You were doing a business, you were learning to work. We are all constantly learning. But there's no exam at the end.
Yeah.
Unless you choose to like the MBA, that was incredible. But it's not just that, is it? It's kind of all the things that navigating life and that 1% improvement. Like, I wonder if I could do that next time, or, improve myself there, or if I learnt to do that a different way. So yeah, it's a good way to live, I think.
As well as lifelong learning, something I've recently discovered is just celebrating your wins, no matter how small.
Yeah. And actually that's so important, like just celebrating progress. And that's been a really big part of these last couple of years, because we haven't reopened our building yet, but we've learned so much, and we've really developed, and the teams have been incredible. And so celebrating the wins with the team has been really important, and and celebrating progress as a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's quite difficult at the moment because you're obviously close to sort of measure the impact and stuff.
Yeah.
So celebrating those wins may be more important than ever.
Yeah, exactly. And just getting together and being in a room together or at a party or, anything really. And so yeah, making sure that we are celebrating together and just eyes on the prize, like making sure that we're really focused on reopening, on our mission and yeah, taking the moments to celebrate where we've done things well or where we've learned something.
Absolutely. And I do love Really Curious. I got now talking to you. I'm even bigger fan now.
Yay!
I just really like how educational it is, how inspirational it is, and how welcoming it is. And I guess I just wanted to ask about. You said earlier how you like marketing and stuff. I'm guessing you're trying to inspire and educate your audience through the marketing as well, through your marketing activities.
Yeah, and I think that was demonstrated in the campaign to collect questions. Kind of it's the fact that it's not just marketing. It's sharing, as you say, it's sharing our messages and with a view to getting more engagement, not just people through the door. And I think sometimes marketing can just be seen as a sales tool, but it's such an important, tool to build a relationship with your visitors and your partners and your peers as well. So yeah, we try to be quite creative and to use any marketing campaign to build relationships with people.
What do you think has been your favourite campaign whilst at Really Curious?
It's a really good question.
It's hard because you've been there for 24
years. I do quite like a world first. So when we had the food exhibition, we made on Millennium Square, we made the longest popcorn string in the world. And we were record breakers. So that was quite fun. And it just got everyone out doing that together, like staff, volunteers, visitors, members. Yeah. That was really fun. So yeah, things that involve people. It's just, anything that involves our visitors, I think is really, really strong. When you just do a cool creative, I think that's kind of not the ones that stick in my memory. But yeah, when they involve our visitors and people, it's always good.
Yeah, I like that. It's involving people, their sort of stories and their experiences, isn't it? Which again is kind of what all Really Curious is about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a real honour to be part of that.
So you mentioned earlier how user-centric you are. So I'm guessing you collect a lot of feedback from your audiences.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And so you kind of probably what you'd expect from most venues, but one that really sticks in my mind and made me ugly cry was when it was shortly after the fire, and we got a card from Jack, age 7, who'd written as a card and a picture of him playing Lego in Animate It exhibition. And he said in it, because he sent us some seeds to plant in the Millennium Square planters, he said, here are some seeds to cheer you up about the fire. And then in brackets, sorry about the fire. And just that was incredible. Like that,
yeah.
that the fact that he thought, they must be sad, so I'm going to cheer them up, meant everything.
Oh, I do love that.
It's
I can
so
see myself
nice.
crying now.
Honestly, it was just at that moment where everything felt very tough, and not entirely sure that the route through, and that just landed at the right time, and it just made me go, right, we are going to reopen brilliantly for Jack. And so yeah, those types of personal interactions really do mean everything.
Absolutely. And it feels like you've definitely overcome this adversity really well, and it's actually kind of maybe helped build relationships and stuff and got you out in the community a little bit more. It's been really good talking to you, Donna, so thank you. But for those who are coming across adversity in their charity, what sort of advice can you give to them?
I would advise to focus on why you're there and make sure that that's what you're planning to continue to do. Enable your team to be brilliant, because that is something that I think has been really clear, is the team have been incredible leaders. And I would say be transparent, say what's going on, and take care of yourself, take care of your team, and stay focused on your mission and what you're there for.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that. I cannot wait for Really Curious to reopen.
Me too.
Thank you so much for coming in, Donna.
Pleasure.